Welcome to some Pandemonium, Tron. I hope you're excited for some Jank City. Oh, yes, indeed. This is actually one of my my favorite Magic decks. It's like the second deck I ever built when I got into Magic. Well, not this one in particular. I built it for just casual Magic, but I ported it over to Modern in this deck tech, and I'll explain that here in a second. Let's jump into it. Let's have some fun. We are playing Pandemonium Tron. What does that revolve around? We're using the enchantment called Pandemonium in Warstorm Surge. So with Pandemonium, whenever a creature comes into play, that creature's controller may choose to have it deal damage equal to its power to target creature or player. Same thing with Warstorm Surge. The only difference between these two cards is Pandemonium costs 4, Warstorm costs 6. With Pandemonium, it's going to trigger for our opponent's creatures too. With Warstorm Surge, it's only going to trigger for our creatures entering the battlefield. Now, long story short, what do these abilities mean? Let's say that we cast a creature that has a power of 5. You're going to be able to deal 5 damage to target creature or player off of Pandemonium and Warstorm Surge. Let's say that we have multiple copies of Pandemonium on the battlefield. That's going to be multiple triggers, multiple damage, and multiple fun. So, we're looking to get really big creatures down to help us close the game out with stuff like Pandemonium. And in fact, let's take a look at some of these bigger creatures. So we've got some fun stuff like Phyrexian Soulgorger, Eater of Days, and Leveler. You may notice that all of these creatures have a huge power and toughness and a very, very low converted mana cost. Let's take Phyrexian Soulgorger for example. It has a cumulative upkeep of sack a creature. Really not that good for 3 mana. You know, even if you do get it online somehow, it doesn't have trample or anything like that, and we have to start sacrificing our creatures at each upkeep. Take Eater of Days. Whenever we cast it, we have to skip our next 2 turns, and then whenever Leveler enters the battlefield, you're going to remove your library from the game, so you have no library to draw a card from, so if you don't close it out once you cast Leveler, you're done. Hey, that's some good magic right there. But these all have huge downsides, but we're looking to add this onto the Pandemonium triggers on the stack. We cast Phyrexian Soulgorger for 3 mana. That's going to be an 8/8 burn spell. Eater of Days is going to be 9 damage, and then Leveler is going to be 10 damage. Oh, yes, there's no better way than closing the game out with Leveler. So, basically, we're looking to get into a spot to where we get down Pandemonium. Even though we're going to cast a Leveler and exile our library, hopefully we're going to be able to close it out with that 10 damage Pandemonium stack going on the trigger. That trigger going on the stack. Now, outside of the big creatures that we're running, we are running some good Eldrazi creatures in here. It fits on theme with the Tron pieces that we're running in here and kind of gives us an alternative mid-range game plan. You don't really want to have a handful of Levelers and Phyrexian Soulgorgers. It doesn't really get the job done if you can't attack or at least get some sort of ground game established. So we're running Thought-Knot Seer, some good hand disruption. We have Reality Smasher, 5/5 haste, that never gets old. And then Ulamog is a great way for us to dump some of our Tron mana into late game once we have Tron online. There's no better feeling in Pandemonium Tron than going Reality Smasher, 5 damage, and then coming across for 5 damage with haste. That just never gets old. Love it. Now, outside of the Eldrazi creatures, how are we generating this much mana? If you're not familiar with what the Tron pieces are, we're running all the Urza's lands. So we have Urza's Mine, Power Plant, and Tower. Once you have all 3 of these on the battlefield, Urza's Mine will tap for 2, Power Plant for 2, and then the Tower will tap for 3 if you're new to Modern. Throw in some Eldrazi Temples and an Expedition map, and you have a full access party. Outside of the land base that we're also running some pretty good utility cards in here. We're running Ugin the Spirit Dragon, and then also this deck really wants to kind of filter through its cards as quickly as possible. So we're running Faithless Looting and Tormenting Voice, and in fact, we're running a lot of dead cards sometimes, so we'll have like Leveler in the hand or Eater of Days. We don't really want to cast it just yet. So that's great fodder for discarding off Tormenting Voice or Faithless Looting, because really you just need one Leveler or a couple different creatures like that to kind of help you close the game out. Now, why are we running Ugin over Karn? The main reason is, and this may be a little bit Magic Christmas Land, but with Ugin's ultimate, the -10, you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, put up to 7 permanents from your hand onto the battlefield. Let's say that we can't find Pandemonium, we can't find some of our big dumb creatures, we somehow get ourselves into an Ugin ultimate, and we draw into Pandemonium and some of those creatures. We put them all on the battlefield at once. That's going to trigger for each creature that enters the battlefield and Pandemonium on the battlefield. So basically, we can kind of help us close the game out with Ugin, going for that -10 ability. It'll give us triggers on the stack to help us win. But we've got a lot of Eldrazi in there too, but it is of note that we're running that strictly for the ultimate ability to kind of put Pandemonium with a ton of creatures on there in Magic Christmas Land, which is always fun. Now, let's go over to the sideboard. Nothing too crazy in here. It will kind of change for your meta. We're running a couple Dismembers, 2 Smasher Smithereens, Grafdigger's Cage, 3 Lightning Bolts. Now, the fun thing is 3 Guttural Response. I love running this in this deck. Nobody ever expects it. Oops, there we go. Let's go back. But yeah, so we've got All Is Dust, Relic of Progenitus. The fun thing about Guttural Response is when you're playing against any sort of blue deck, one thing you do have to watch out for is, let's say we have Pandemonium on the battlefield. We go to cast Leveler, that exile. Like, we go to cast Leveler, your opponent can go for a Cryptic Command in response and bounce the Pandemonium back to the hand. There's just going to be some times where maybe they're running Echoing Truth or something, and they're never going to play around Guttural Response, so it's always fun to run it in there. And then everything else is just basically just, you know, whatever your local meta is. But I would highly suggest 3 Guttural Response. They never expect it, and feels good to catch your opponent off guard with that. But yeah, I do have 3 gameplay videos up for you if you want to go check them out. And hey, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.